If you've ever held an old penny and thought, this can't be worth much, tonight's video may completely change that belief. Some of the earliest US pennies, especially shield pennies, have quietly crossed into jaw-dropping value territory, with a few rare survivors shocking collectors at hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars. Coins once passed from hand to hand during the Civil War era are now powerful time capsules. And a small detail you might overlook could be the difference between pocket change and a life-changing fortune. Take a close look at this coin in front of you right now. What you're seeing may look like an ordinary old penny, but don't let its quiet appearance fool you. This is a 1920 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and in extra fine condition. It carries a story and a potential value that shocks even seasoned collectors. At first glance, the coin has a strong, honest presence. Abraham Lincoln's portrait still shows clear detail. His cheekbone is defined, the jawline is sharp, and the coat lines are visible without fading into the surface. That alone tells us something important. This penny did circulate, but it was handled gently. It wasn't abused, scraped, or worn flat by decades of careless use. For a coin that's now more than a century old, that's already impressive. Flip the coin over, and the two wheat stalks frame the words, 1 cent, with surprising strength. The lines in the wheat ears are still visible. The lettering is bold, not weak. The rims are full, not blended into the field. This is exactly what collectors look for when they hear the words, extra fine. It means history survived and condition survived with it. Now here's where the excitement starts to build. The year 1920 sits in a powerful moment in American history. The nation was just coming out of World War I. Soldiers were returning home. The economy was shifting. Inflation was rising. And everyday Americans were spending these exact pennies on bread, newspapers, and train fares. Millions were struck, yes, but very few survived in higher condition. Most were spent hard, saved poorly, and lost to time. That's why an extra fine 1920 wheat penny is not common anymore. But condition alone isn't the whole story. Collectors know that 1920 is a year where mint quality matters deeply. Subtle differences in strike strength, metal flow, and surface texture can turn a simple coin into a monster rarity. On well-preserved examples like this, collectors carefully inspect the date spacing, the sharpness of the Liberty, and the strength of Lincoln's ear and body. These details separate a $25 coin from one worth thousands. In circulated condition, a 1920 wheat penny may only bring modest value, but in extra fine condition like this one, values jump dramatically, often into the high hundreds or several $1,000s, depending on eye appeal and originality. And that's just the baseline. Here's the part that makes collectors sit up straight. Some 1920 wheat pennies were struck with subtle minting irregularities, microscopic die wear, weak planchets, or early-stage die cracks that only appear on better preserved coins. These aren't obvious errors you see right away. They're the kind discovered under magnification, the kind auction houses love, and the kind wealthy collectors fight over. When a 1920 penny like this is authenticated, graded, and found to have one of these rare characteristics, the value can explode. We're talking 5 figures, sometimes more, especially when paired with original red-brown color and untouched surfaces, and, in extremely rare cases, when a near-perfect example, surfaces with exceptional strike quality and historic pedigree. Values can push far beyond expectations. These are the coins that quietly sell behind closed doors, the ones that never make headlines but change lives. That's why holding a coin like this creates a strange feeling. You're not just holding copper, you're holding a moment in time, a piece of America that survived wars, economic change, and generations of use. And somehow, it made it to today in this condition. This is why older collectors, especially those who grew up handling wheat pennies, feel such a strong emotional pull. These coins were once ignored, tossed in jars, spent without thought, and now they're respected, studied, and hunted. If you have a 1920 wheat penny at home, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't assume it's common. Look closely at the details. Look at the wear. Look at the color. Because what seems ordinary at first glance can quietly carry extraordinary value, and as we move forward in this series, remember this feeling because the next coins don't just raise the stakes, they shatter expectations. Stay right here with us, Mint Mysteries. The story is only getting richer. Take a deep look at the coin on your screen right now. What you're holding may seem quiet, even ordinary at first glance, but this 1925 Lincoln Wheat Penny in extra fine condition carries a level of mystery and potential value that has stunned collectors for decades. This is one of those coins that hides its power in plain sight, and by the time we're done, you may never look at an old penny the same way again. Start with Lincoln's portrait. Notice how calm and strong his face still appears. The cheekbone hasn't flattened. The jawline hasn't melted away. You can still see separation in the coat, the curve of the collar, and even traces of the boatie. That tells us something critical right away. This coin circulated, yes, but it was respected. It wasn't abused. It survived when so many others didn't. For a penny that's nearly 100 years old, that alone places it into a more desirable category. Now flip it over slowly. The wheat stalks are still bold. The lines inside the wheat ears are visible, not smooth or faded. The words, 1 cent, and United States of America stand tall and clear. The rims are full. Nothing bleeds into the edge. This is the textbook definition of extra fine. And collectors know that condition like this is where values begin to climb fast. Now let's talk about why the year 1925 matters. America was changing rapidly in the mid-1920s. The country was in the middle of economic growth, industrial expansion, and cultural shift. Pennies were working hard passed through factories, diners, train stations, and corner stores. Millions were struck, but most were worn down to smooth brown discs. Very few survived with detail still intact. That's why an extra fine 1925 wheat penny is no longer easy to find. But here's where the story gets exciting. Collectors don't just look at condition, they look at strike quality. In 1925, many pennies were struck with uneven pressure. Some came out weak, others came out sharp and strong. Like this one. When a coin shows crisp lettering, strong wheat lines, and even metal flow, it stands out instantly under professional grading. And the color matters too. Original surfaces are everything. An untouched 1925 penny with natural brown or red-brown color is far more valuable than a bright, clean coin. Cleaning destroys history. Originality preserves it. This coin shows natural aging, the kind collectors dream of. No harsh shine, no artificial brightness, just honest time. In circulated condition, a 1925 wheat penny might sell for a few dollars. But in extra fine condition, values jump into the hundreds quickly. When eye appeal is strong, they can push into the thousands. And that's before we even talk about varieties and errors. Here's the part that makes collectors lean forward. Some 1925 wheat pennies were struck from worn or misaligned dies. These coins can show subtle doubling in the date or lettering, minor die cracks, or unusual spacing that only appears on well-preserved examples. These aren't dramatic errors, they're the kind only experts spot. And those are the coins that auction houses love. When a 1925 penny like this is authenticated and graded, and a rare variety is confirmed, prices can explode. 5 figures is not unusual. And in exceptional cases, when a coin shows near perfect strike quality, outstanding eye appeal, and historic provenance, values can rise into 6 figures. Yes, 6 figures. For a penny. And here's the emotional punch. Most people who own these coins inherited them, found them in jars, discovered them in old collections, tucked away and forgotten. They never imagined that something so small could carry so much value. That's why these moments are so powerful, because they connect everyday life to hidden history. For collectors aged 50, 60, even 70 years old, wheat pennies feel familiar. Many remember using them as children, spending them without a second thought. And now, those same pennies are being locked away in vaults, insured, certified, and fiercely competed over. That's the magic of the 1925 wheat penny. It's not loud. It doesn't scream rarity. But when condition, originality, and timing come together, it becomes something extraordinary. If you have one at home, do not clean it. Do not polish it. Look closely at the date, the detail, the color, because what you think is just an old penny could quietly be a serious collector coin. And remember this feeling, because the next coin in this series doesn't just raise the value, it raises the shock factor even higher. Stay with us, Mint Mysteries. The real surprises are still ahead. Take a breath and look closely at the coin you're seeing right now. This is not copper. This is not bronze. This is a 1943 wheat steel penny, and the rusty surface you notice immediately is exactly what makes this coin so powerful, so misunderstood, and in rare cases, so incredibly valuable. At first glance, many people panic when they see rust on a coin. They assume damage. They assume the coin is ruined. But with the 1943 steel penny, rust tells a deeper story, a story tied directly to World War II, rational survival, and one of the most dramatic metal changes in U.S. coin history. Hold this moment for a second. In 1943, the United States was fully engaged in the war effort. Copper was desperately needed for ammunition and military equipment. So the U.S. Mint made a decision that shocked the nation. Pennies would no longer be copper, they would be made of steel, coated in zinc. For 1 year only, millions were struck, yes. But survival is a different story. Now focus on the S Mint mark below the date. That single letter tells us this coin was struck in San Francisco, a mint known for lower production numbers and stronger strikes compared to others. Already, that puts this coin into a more interesting category, like Lincoln's portrait. Even through the rust, you can still see shape and structure. The outline of the face is there. The coat lines are present. The lettering is readable. This tells us the coin wasn't completely destroyed by circulation. It lived a hard life, but not a careless one. Flip the coin over in your mind. The wheat stalks are still visible. The words 1 cent and United States of America haven't disappeared. The rims are worn, but still defined. That matters more than most people realize. Now, let's talk about the rust, because this is where the shock factor hits. Steel pennies were never meant to last. The zinc coating was thin. Once it wore off, moisture reached the steel core. And when steel meets moisture, rust is inevitable. Most people threw these coins away. Others spent them until they fell apart. That's why surviving examples, even rusty ones, are becoming harder to find every year. In poor condition, rusty 1943 steel penny might only be worth a few dollars. But this coin is different. Collectors don't just look at rust. They look at pattern. Uniform surface corrosion can actually indicate originality, and touch surfaces that were never cleaned or altered. And originality is gold in the collector world. Here's where it gets exciting. Some 1943 steel pennies were struck on improperly prepared planchets. Others show die cracks, weak strikes, or rare minting anomalies that only appear once rust exposes the surface beneath the zinc. These hidden details are often invisible on shiny examples, but visible on naturally aged coins like this one. When a 1943 steel penny with rust is authenticated, graded, and found to have a rare die variety or striking anomaly, values can jump into the thousands very quickly. But now comes the moment that makes collectors' hearts race. A small number of 1943 steel pennies were struck with exceptional strike quality, low mintage dies, and unique surface characteristics. When these coins appear with documented history, original corrosion, and rare mint diagnostics, they enter a completely different league. We're talking 5 figures, 6 figures, and in extreme cases, auction prices pushing toward the 7-figure range, especially when tied to wartime provenance or early mint production runs. Yes, even a rusty penny can be worth a fortune. That's why this coin creates so much confusion and excitement at the same time. People throw them away without realizing what they have. Others clean them, destroying value instantly. And only a few collectors understand that rust doesn't always mean damage. Sometimes, it means truth. This coin is a survivor. It passed through wartime America. It changed hands during rationing. It lived through moisture, neglect, and time, and still exists today. That alone makes it special. But when condition, mint mark, and rarity align, it becomes something far more powerful. If you find a 1943 steel penny like this, do not clean it. Do not scrape the rust. Do not try to make it shiny. What looks ugly to the untrained eye can be priceless to the right collector. And if this coin surprised you, brace yourself, because the next penny in this series doesn't just challenge what you think is valuable, it completely rewrites it. Stay right here with us. Mint Mysteries. The shock isn't over yet. Look closely at this coin right now, and clear your mind of everything you think you know about old pennies. What you're seeing is a 1943 steel wheat penny with no mint mark, struck in fine condition, and this small, gray coin carries one of the most intense and emotional stories in American coin history. At first glance, it feels simple, almost plain. A steel penny with no mint mark doesn't scream rarity to the untrained eye. Many people have held one. Many have spent one. Many have ignored one. And that is exactly why this coin has shocked collectors for decades. Let's start with what no mint mark really means. This penny was struck in Philadelphia, the main U.S. mint facility during World War II. In 1943, Philadelphia produced hundreds of millions of steel pennies to support a nation at war. Copper was redirected to bullets, wiring, and military equipment. Pennies became steel cold, hard, and temporary by design. And that's the key word, temporary. These coins were never meant to last. Now look at the condition. Even in fine condition, Lincoln's face is still recognizable. The outline of his cheek, jaw, and coat remains visible. The word liberty is readable. The date is clear. That alone is impressive for a steel coin that's more than 80 years old. Steel corrodes. Steel rusts. Steel fails. Most of these coins didn't survive this long. Turn the coin over in your mind. The wheat stalks are worn, but present. 1 cent is still legible. The rim is intact. This tells us something important. The coin circulated, but it wasn't destroyed. It lived a real life in wartime America, passed from hand to hand during rationing, factory shifts, and uncertain days. Now here's where the tension starts to build. Most people believe steel pennies are common and cheap. And in poor condition, many are. But condition changes everything. Fine condition is a breaking point for collectors. It's where the coin stops being scrap steel and starts becoming history. But there's more. Some 1943 steel pennies from Philadelphia were struck with early die states. That means the dies were fresh, sharp, and produced stronger details. When those coins survive with original surfaces, even in fine condition, they attract serious attention. Collectors carefully inspect no mint mark steel pennies for subtle signs, spacing in the date, thickness of the lettering, the shape of Lincoln's ear, and tiny die cracks near the wheat stalks. These details can separate a $10 coin from one worth thousands. Now, let's talk about what really shocks people. A standard 1943 steel penny in average shape might sell for a few dollars. But in fine condition, with strong eye appeal, prices can climb into the hundreds. When authenticated and professionally graded, values can reach 4 figures quickly. But when a no mint mark steel penny is discovered with a rare die variety, striking anomaly, or documented wartime provenance, the value can explode. Collectors have paid tens of thousands of dollars for steel pennies once thought ordinary. And in extremely rare situations, when a coin shows exceptional strike quality, originality, and rarity traits, values have reached 6 figures. Yes, even without a mint mark. That's what makes this coin dangerous to ignore. People throw them in junk drawers. Kids play with them because they stick to magnets. Others clean them to make them shiny, destroying value forever. And only a small group of collectors understands that originality matters more than shine. The steel penny is emotional for older Americans. Many remember seeing them as children. They felt strange. They looked different. They didn't sound right when dropped on a table. And then, almost as quickly as they appeared, they vanished. That disappearance is why surviving examples matter so much today. This coin is a survivor of a desperate time. A reminder that even money was sacrificed for victory. And when a piece of that history survives in collectible condition, it becomes far more than a penny. If you have one like this at home, don't dismiss it. Don't clean it. Don't assume it's common. Look at the date. Look at the surface. Look at the details. Because what feels ordinary can quietly be extraordinary. And stay with me, because the next coin in this series doesn't just increase in value. It delivers one of the biggest shocks in wheat penny history. Stay right here with us. Mint Mysteries. The story keeps getting deeper. Now take a close look at this next coin, because this is where confusion, disbelief, and shock all collide. What you're seeing is a 1/9 for 3D steel wheat penny, old, rusty, and worn by time, and this is exactly the kind of coin most people throw away without a second thought. But that mistake has cost some people a fortune. At first glance, this coin looks rough. The surface shows rust. The color is dark and uneven. The shine is long gone. And yet, right below the date, that small D mint mark quietly tells a powerful story. This penny was struck at the Denver Mint during the height of World War II, a time when America was under pressure, resources were scarce, and even the metal in your pocket mattered. Pause for a second and think about that. In 1943, copper was desperately needed for the war, so the mint replaced it with steel coated in zinc. These pennies were rushed into production. Speed mattered more than perfection. And the Denver Mint, producing fewer coins than Philadelphia, created pieces that would later become far more interesting to collectors. Now, at Lincoln's portrait, even through the rust and age, you can still see the outline of his face. The head shape is there. The lettering hasn't vanished. That tells us this coin lived a long, hard life. But it wasn't destroyed completely. It circulated. It was used. It passed through real hands in wartime America. Turn the coin over in your mind. The wheat stalks are worn, but still visible. 1 cent hasn't disappeared. The rim is weak, but present. This is not a smooth metal disc. This is a survivor. And here's where the tension starts to rise. Most people believe rust ruins a coin. And with copper pennies, that's often true. But steel pennies are different. Rust is part of their story. Once the thin zinc coating wore away, steel was exposed to air and moisture. Corrosion was inevitable. That's why truly original, naturally rusted steel pennies are becoming harder to find every year. Collectors don't just look at rust, they study it. Uniform corrosion can actually confirm originality. It tells experts the coin hasn't been cleaned, polished, or altered. And originality is everything in the collector world. A shiny steel penny is often a damaged steel penny. A naturally aged one like this can be far more desirable. Now here's the shock most people never expect. A common, heavily damaged steel penny might be worth only a few dollars. But a 1/9 3D steel penny, even rusty, can move into a completely different category when certain traits are present. Denver Mint steel scents are closely examined for early dye states, strike anomalies, and rare minting characteristics. Some show weakly struck lettering. Others reveal dye cracks, metal flow lines, or unusual surface textures that only become visible after years of corrosion. These hidden traits can turn an overlooked coin into a serious collector target. When a 1/9 3D steel penny like this is authenticated and professionally graded, values can jump into the hundreds, then the thousands, depending on rarity and eye appeal. But now comes the moment that makes collectors hold their breath. A very small number of 1/9 3D steel pennies display exceptional strike quality, rare dye varieties, or documented wartime production traits. When those coins survive even with rust and are verified by experts, prices can climb into 5 figures, and in extreme, headline-making cases when a coin shows unique mint characteristics combined with historic provenance, values have pushed into the 6-figure range. Yes, even a rusty, old steel penny. That's why this coin is so dangerous to underestimate. People clean them. People throw them away. Kids play with them because they stick to magnets. And every year, more original examples disappear forever. Meanwhile, serious collectors quietly compete for the few survivors that still tell the truth of 1/9 3 For older Americans, this coin is emotional. It's a reminder of a time when nothing was wasted, when even pennies were sacrificed for victory, when money felt different, heavier, colder, temporary. This 1943 steel wheat penny lived through that moment. It survived moisture, neglect, and time. And now, decades later, it stands as proof that value doesn't always shine. Sometimes, it rusts. If you find one like this, don't clean it. Don't scrape it. Don't try to make it pretty, because what looks ugly to one person can be priceless to another. And if this coin surprised you, prepare yourself, because the next and final coin in the series delivers the kind of shock that has rewritten price guides and stunned collectors across the country. Stay right here with us. Mint Mysteries, because the biggest reveal is still ahead.